Okay, welcome back to the K&L Sports Huddle. I believe this is episode 31. So 3-1, shout out to the 2016 Golden State Warriors. And I am Logan Hubert. And as you can tell, Kage is not here. Yeah, he is on his honeymoon this week. So you'll just have to bear with me for this episode. And it might be a shorter episode today because I don't want to get into too many topics without Kage, but we'll recap week 5 a little bit of the NFL season. Obviously, give our picks for week 6, and then might dive a little bit deeper into college football over the past weekend and the MLB postseason. So, it's just the L Sports Huddle today. Pretty terrible name for a podcast that provides bets, but hey, it's just for a week. So, hopefully, we'll have a winning record with our bets this week. So, starting with what I noticed in week 5 of the NFL season. For me, biggest storyline of the week was 6 double-digit comebacks. So, the Broncos, Saints, Panthers, Titans, Commanders, and then the Jaguars on Monday night all overcame a double-digit deficit to come back and win their respective games. Obviously, a few of those teams were bottom feeders, Saints, Panthers, Titans. But, hey, Broncos, huge win against the Eagles, knocked off the previously undefeated Eagles. Commanders, big win against the Chargers at Los Angeles. And Jacksonville, how about that? Monday night, coming back and stunning Kansas City. Not too many people called that one, except maybe yours truly right here last week. But crazy week 5. And as mentioned, like about the Eagles, same with the Bills, there are no more unbeaten teams in the NFL after week 5. So the 1972 Dolphins can go ahead and smoke those cigars. And there's really only one beaten team left. The Jets are the only winless team remaining. They are still 0-5. Doesn't look like that playoff drought is going to end anytime soon for New York. And final storyline I wanted to point out is that of all divisions, there is only one that has 2 4-1 teams in it right now, and it just so happens to be the AFC South. Not many people called that, especially if you were told at the beginning of the year that there would be 2 4-1 teams, and neither one of them would be the Texans. That's right. The Colts and the Jaguars are both 4-1. As mentioned, Jacksonville beat Kansas City, and then the Colts absolutely slaughtered the Raiders over the weekend. So, somehow, some way, the Colts are the number 1 overall seed in the AFC if the season ended today, and Jacksonville is right behind them. Okay, getting into week 6 picks against the spread. Okay week for me last week. I went 8-6 to move my total to 40-38 on the year. So I'm just over 500, not too bad. But Kage is on an absolute heater right now. I believe he went 10-4 last week, and that brings his total to 48-30 overall. So we made sure that despite the amount of pina coladas he's probably taking in right now, we made sure to get his picks in for this week because he's been on fire lately. So, obviously he won't be here to share them with you, but I'll be happy to read them since he provided me with them this morning. Okay, starting things off like we always do. Week 6, our first game Thursday night is at the Giants, and the Eagles are heading there for an NFC East clash. Eagles are currently sitting at 7.5-point favorites. As previously mentioned, all of these spreads are brought to you by FanDuel. I have the Eagles minus 7.5. Frankly, the Giants might actually be by far the worst team that the Eagles have played. And looking at their schedule, really, Philadelphia, you could say all you want that they haven't looked right this year. They have not played a bad team this year. Like, they've had a pretty difficult schedule so far in their first 5 games, and they've managed to go 4-1. And arguably should have been 5-0. Like I said, blew a double-digit lead against the Broncos, and there was definitely some questionable officiating in that game. But yeah, on a short week, I like the Eagles here at -7.5. Giants kind of came back down to earth against the Saints, providing the Saints their first win of the year. Jackson Dart showed that he's a rookie, which was to be expected. And yeah, I think the Eagles are going to roll here. This is they've played really well against the Giants over the last 2 years, and so the Giants just have a bad rush defense, and I could see this being a Saquon Barkley get right game, since he hasn't really been utilized as much as he was in his super great season last year. So yeah, like I said, Eagles -7.5, and Kage is in agreement with me. So we both like the Eagles here. Okay, once again, our Sunday begins with a Europe game. This one takes place in London again. The Broncos are taking on the Jets. The Broncos, last I checked, are 7-point favorites. And we have a disagreement here. I took the Broncos. Kage took the Jets. And yeah, this was a tough one. I could see where he's going. Europe makes things weird. Jets played really bad last week. They might just have more incentive to play better after that debacle. And the Broncos are coming off a really good victory, so this could be a little letdown for them. But the Jets' offense last week struggled mightily against the Cowboys' defense. And if you've been listening, we've been saying like the Cowboys' defense is one of the worst in the league. They've just looked awful all year until last week, and then the Jets' offense made the Cowboys' defense look pretty good. So I just can't trust a team that does that. I could see this being like a low-scoring, ugly game, but I like the Broncos still to win and cover. Broncos also have kind of more incentive to play well because all of a sudden the AFC West looks very attainable for them. Obviously, Chiefs lost to Jacksonville. They're now 2-3. The Chargers are now struggling after their 3-0 start. So yeah, if the Broncos play well in this game, that really puts them almost in the driver's seat early in the year for the division. Obviously, they'll still have 2 more dates with Kansas City later in the year, but I think the Broncos will play well and cover here. But Kage disagrees. He takes the Jets in this one. Okay, starting off with our 1 o'clock kickoffs, we'll start with the Cardinals and the Colts. This game is at Indianapolis. It started out as a 5.5-point spread in favor of the Colts. It's gone up to 6.5. And if you know me, I am a Colts fan, and I've been betting against the Colts all year. I've just kind of in the back of my mind think they're eventually going to come back down to earth. I'm going to go the opposite here. I am actually taking the Colts at -6.5. And this really has everything to do with the Cardinals. So the Cardinals, if you did not see, had one of the worst choke jobs I think I've ever seen in an NFL game. Dropping, at a 15-point lead. They had dropped a goal line touchdown. The runner dropped it, fumbled it out of the end zone, touchback. And granted, the Titans are still a really bad team, so it had to take more choking for the Titans to come back. And sure enough, the Cardinals picked off one of Cam Ward's passes. They fumbled the interception, and the Titans recovered it in the end zone for a touchdown. One of the crazier plays I've seen. And then Cam Ward led a clutch drive for the Titans to win it. Yeah, absolute choke job by the Cardinals. And for a team like the Cardinals, who've just kind of been stagnating the last several years, never bottomed out, but have never been really good. I think this is the kind of loss that can just tank the rest of the year. Some teams can overcome this. I just don't think the Cardinals are that type of team. So I think the Colts might run away with this one again. I still suspect the Colts will come down to earth eventually, but I don't think it's going to happen this week. I like the Colts at -6.5, and so does Kage. Okay, moving on. Going down to South Florida, the Chargers, coming off a loss, are coming to Miami, who is also coming off a loss. Chargers are 4.5-point favorites. And the Chargers are dealing with a lot of injuries. Yeah, they're missing both Rashawn Slater, obviously, for the year, and then Joe Alt is missing time. And yeah, you could really see how much that was hurting Justin Herbert in their game against the Commanders. He was rushed on his throws, took a few sacks, and yeah, it wasn't very good. But good for him. The Dolphins are pretty bad. We've been talking about this all year, even in the offseason. We think the Dolphins were going to be one of the worst teams in the league, and that's exactly what they've looked like so far, especially after blowing a 17-point lead to the Carolina Panthers. So yeah, despite the injuries to the Chargers and the cross-country trip, we are both taking the Chargers at -4.5. I just, and Kage is probably in agreement with me, just trust Jim Harbaugh way, way more than I trust the Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel at this point. And yeah, you might wonder why this spread. I was wondering at first why the spread wasn't bigger, but it's probably the road factor and the injuries factor of the Chargers. But the Chargers have more to play for at this point. Looks like the Dolphins' season is already lost. Next, Patriots and the Saints. The Patriots are 3.5-point favorites. This is probably my favorite bet of the week. Take the Patriots at -3.5. Cage is in agreement with me. One of the hardest things you see in almost any level of sports, but also professional sports, is for bad teams to be able to handle success. So the Saints came off a great win, their first win of the year. Spencer Rattler finally got his first win of his career, much deserved, because I feel like he's played well enough to not have to at least stack up a couple wins. But yeah, they're facing a Patriots team that just came off an upset win at Buffalo. So the spread might be not very large because it might be a letdown for the Patriots. But I just don't see the Saints handling success very well. I see the Patriots winning this by at least a touchdown. And speaking of the Patriots, looking ahead at their schedule, they only have 3 teams left on their schedule with a record of 500 or better. And 2 of those games are home. That would be the Falcons and the Bills. They get at home, and they're at the Buccaneers later in the year as well. But yeah, the rest of their games are against teams below 500. Twice against the Jets, the Dolphins, the AFC North, which suddenly has become maybe the worst division in football. So yeah, their schedule's looking real nice and pretty. I'm still not sure that they're a great team, but they could get on a roll here, especially since they have the Saints, Titans, and Browns coming up on their schedule, all 3 very winnable games. And I think they continue that trend. They started against Buffalo here. Patriots at -3.5. Take that, most definitely. Okay, next, Browns at Steelers. My first thought on this game was the NFL just absolutely screwed the Browns here. I don't think I've ever seen this before. You can fact check me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's ever been a case where a team that played overseas comes back the next week, does not have the bye. That's happened before, but they're playing a team that is coming off of a bye week. So, yeah. So the Browns, obviously, they lost to the Vikings in London over the past weekend. They're coming back home to go to Pittsburgh against a Steelers team that's had an extra week of rest. All those factors combined with the rookie quarterback for Cleveland, I am taking the Steelers at -5.5. I don't know if the Steelers are any good or not, but there's just too many factors going against the Browns. It may be an ugly game because the Browns' defense is still really good, but I just don't see this ending well for Cleveland. Kage must factor in the Browns' defense more than I do because he's taking the Browns here at +5.5. But I just think this is brutal for a rookie quarterback and any team, especially a team struggling like the Browns right now, to go from London to an away division game against a team that's coming off of a bye week. I just think it's unfair, but which is why I'm taking the Steelers at -5.5. But Cage is in disagreement. He takes the Browns at +5.5. Next, Cowboys at the Panthers. Cowboys, last I checked, 3.5-point favorites. Cage and I are in agreement here. We are both taking the Cowboys at -3.5. We talked about this last week. Dak just plays excellent against bad teams. And yes, I'm categorizing the Panthers as a bad team. Now, the Panthers are 2-0 at home this year. And 2-0 against the spread, obviously. So that's probably why the spread isn't larger, because I think the Cowboys are definitely the better team. But I just see Dak feasting on this Carolina defense. And while the Cowboys defense is still awful, if this game gets into a shootout, I just don't trust Bryce Young and the Panthers offense to keep up with Dak and the Cowboys offense. Could be a letdown game for the Cowboys since they have a big divisional game next week against the Commanders, and they're just coming off another road game that they played. So this is back-to-back road games. But I just think there's too much of a talent differential between the Cowboys and Panthers for me to take the Panthers here. So yeah, both of us are taking Cowboys -3.5. Now we're looking at the very intriguing game, maybe the best game of the 1 o'clock window this week. The Seahawks at the Jaguars. Jaguars coming off an emotional win against Kansas City Monday night. Seahawks coming off an emotional loss in a big-time duel against the Buccaneers. Game ended at 38-35, one of the better games of the year so far. Sam Darnold had a great game. Unfortunately, just threw a really bad pick at the end, which led the Buccaneers to kick the game-winning field goal. And this is a tough one. I had two that were ones I really struggled with picking. This is one of them. Jaguars are 1.5-point favorites, and I really went back and forth on this one. This is one I would not bet normally, but I am taking the Seahawks at +1.5. And I think the Jaguars are still being a little bit disrespected. I still see people ranking them fairly low in their power rankings and stuff. I think the Jaguars, yeah, they've had a couple of fluky wins, and you could argue the Chiefs win was fluky, but because the Chiefs really shot themselves in the foot multiple times, and if you watch the game, Trevor Lawrence scored a miracle game-winning touchdown in that game. But they're still 4-1, and they have good quality wins against the Chiefs and the 49ers. But I could just see this being a potential letdown game off a short week against a Seahawks team that's got a bitter taste in their mouth after letting that Tampa Bay game slip away. Like I said, don't love this bet. Kage is in agreement with me. He's also taking the Seahawks. But, this is one where I would normally just stay away from and just enjoy the show. But, yeah, we're both taking Seahawks +1.5. And then the final 1 o'clock game on the schedule, we have the Rams and the Ravens. This game is at Baltimore, so it'll be a cross-country early trip for the Rams. But Kage and I, neither one of us care about that. We've both seen the Ravens without Lamar Jackson and their terrible defense. And every sign is pointing to take the Rams at -7.5. Big point spread. Rams have had a long week to recover from their brutal loss to San Francisco on Thursday night. Ravens have looked awful on defense all year, and then especially on offense without Lamar Jackson. I can't trust any defense that makes the Houston Texans offense look elite like they did last week. So, this is pretty easy. I'll take Rams at -7.5. Unfortunate what's happened to teams like Baltimore and Cincinnati. We thought the AFC North would be more of a juggernaut fight to the end division, but it's getting pretty ugly there. I think Pittsburgh has the main track on the AFC North title this year, which who would have guessed that, uncontested. Okay, starting with the evening slate, we have the Titans at the Raiders. I looked at this game, and I'm really comparing it to two games we had last week. So last week we had the Dolphins at the Panthers and the Giants at the Saints. All four of those teams are bad this year. What's similar with this game is, though, the Dolphins were coming off a win heading to Carolina. The Giants are coming off a win heading to the Saints. And the home team the team that had just won lost both games, failed to cover. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about teams struggling to handle success. Both for some reason, well, obvious reasons actually, when a bad team gets a win, it doesn't usually result in more wins. Usually, the confidence levels are way too high or way too low. There's still no good feelings in the locker room despite a win, and it shows the next week when they end up looking putrid in their next game. And that's kind of how I see this game. Look, the Raiders looked absolutely abysmal against the Colts. Geno Smith threw 2 more picks, took a lot of sacks. Their defense got shredded, 0 sacks in that game. And the Titans are coming off a miracle win against the Cardinals for their first win of the year. Yeah, I don't see sustained success with this Titans team. They're going to be at Las Vegas, so the Raiders have home field advantage. I see this as a Raiders cover easily, -5.5. Kage is an actual disagreement with me. I'm kind of surprised about that. He's taking the Titans +5.5. He must have lost all hope in the Raiders after that game last week, which I guess I don't blame him. But yeah, I'm pretty confident in the Raiders bouncing back against a horrible team this week. Next, we have a game that looked great at the beginning of the year, but has turned into what'll probably be a pretty boring game. Bengals at Packers. So last I checked on FanDuel, the Packers are 14.5-point favorites, which is a brutal spread because it's right over that 2-touchdown mark. So it's a tough one to pick. Big news of the day, as I'm recording this Tuesday, the Bengals have traded for Joe Flacco. So I'm assuming he will start this week. Not too big of a move for Flacco, just going from one corner of Ohio to the other. But yeah, I guess they'll just practice a couple days and then they'll just throw him in there. Can't be worse than Jake Browning's look this year. But I can't pick the Bengals until they prove otherwise. Yeah, I probably wouldn't bet this game normally. That 14.5 is just kind of an ugly number. Packers did not look like themselves the 2 weeks before the bye week, but they've had a bye week to recuperate. They get the Bengals at home. The Bengals are bad right now. While Flacco did beat the Packers just a couple weeks ago, he didn't contribute too much in that win. That was mostly a Browns defense victory. In a short week for Flacco, maybe he will be an improvement over Browning in the long term of this season, but I'm going to take the Packers here at -14.5. Kage takes the Bengals at +14.5. He is a Bengals fan, but he's also a Bengals doubter at the moment, so he must think that's. I am surprised he took it, but he must think that spread's a little too large to back the Packers. Okay, possibly the game of the week in the entire week. It's in the evening slate. We have the 49ers at the Buccaneers. Both teams are 4-1. They're both 3-2 against the spread. They're both only had one loss, and it was in week 4. Two very similar teams have had the love the dramatic this year, particularly the Buccaneers. They've had some crazy games this year. This is a tough one. It's at -3 right now in favor of the Buccaneers. I'm taking the Buccaneers at -3. Kage is taking the 49ers at +3. And listen, if this goes to 3.5, I will back the 49ers. I'm not sure it will. But if it's at +3, I'll take the Buccaneers. I could see Tampa winning this on a field goal, and then I just get the draw here. But I just trust Baker just a little bit more than Mac Jones. Granted, Mac Jones has looked great under Kyle Shanahan so far this year. And in particular, last week against the Rams. Not many people saw that one coming. But I think he might still play well this game too. But somehow the Buccaneers just find a way to keep pulling these off. And it'll definitely be close. Not a huge fan of picking this game, but I will take the Buccaneers at -3. And like I said, Kage is taking the 49ers here. Okay, the other game I mentioned earlier, I had another one that I definitely never wanted to bet this because I really do not know what's going to happen here. But I have to, so we can keep track of our records. Lions at the Chiefs. So this is an extremely interesting game. Lions are 4-1. I've won 4 in a row, and at the moment might be the best team in the NFL. Chiefs are 2-3. Last week against the Jaguars, or I could say yesterday against the Jaguars, as we're recording this. Um, they definitely look like the better team. They just shot themselves in the foot way too many times in that game and ended up losing. Mahomes' red zone interception or pick six was brutal. Special teams was a disaster. They had so many holding penalties that backed them up on their drives, and then Harrison Butker kicked it out of bounds after the Chiefs took the lead in the fourth quarter, which set the Jaguars up at the 40-yard line, and Trevor Lawrence was able to lead the offense to the leading score. So, yeah, right now it started at 1.5 in favor of the Chiefs. It's actually gone up to 2.5 in favor of the Chiefs, and I think it's because it's just really hard to picture the Chiefs being 2-4, especially since they didn't look like they looked like it still looked like a talented team yesterday. Which is why I don't like betting this game at all. But I'm going to take the Lions here plus 2.5. Frankly, I just think the Lions have just looked like the better team this year. And 2 years ago, in that opening night, Lions upset the Chiefs. That was the Kadarius Toney infamous game where he led to a pick six and dropped a crucial catch that would have put the Chiefs in field goal range. But I'm going to take the Lions here. I just think they're the better team at the moment. Kage is in agreement with me. Should be an excellent Sunday night football game. I'm really looking forward to watching it. And I'm going to take the Lions. Chiefs really need this one, especially if the Broncos are able to beat the Jets, because if Broncos win and Chiefs lose, that puts them 2 games behind early to the Denver Broncos in the AFC West standings. So, early almost must win for the Chiefs, but I'm back in the Lions here. Okay, and lastly, we have a Monday night doubleheader again, which I hate. Makes no sense. They're supposed to be they're primetime games for a reason. But whatever, we have them anyways. So our first one is the Bills at the Falcons. The Bills are 3.5 point favorites, actually 4.5 now. Kage and I are in disagreement here. He is backing the Bills. He took them at 3.5. That's where he got them. I got the Falcons at plus 4.5. I think Buffalo will probably win by a field goal, but I think Atlanta is easily capable of keeping this within a field goal game, and I think Atlanta could still win this game too. They're at home; they're well rested. I think the Patriots exposed some of the Bills' flaws, particularly their defense last week, and I think the Falcons could try to exploit that. So Josh Allen is still Josh Allen, and I don't think the Bills' offense is anything to worry about. And I think they'll probably still win this game. But at 4.5, I like the Falcons to cover that, especially in prime time, where just a couple weeks ago they went into Minnesota and dominated that game in prime time. So I think there's a chance we could see that again. Okay, in our final game of the week, we have the Bears at the Commanders. Bears coming off of a bye week. Commanders are 4.5 point favorites. Jane Daniels and the Commanders got off to a slow start after his comeback from an injury against the Chargers, but man, they delivered late in the second half to pull away. And the Bears have extra rest, but I still don't really believe in the Bears. That's why I'm taking the Commanders at minus 4.5. Yeah, the Bears still they're ranked 30th in net yards per play on offense, and their defense allows 7.5 yards per pass attempt, which is bottom 5 in the league. So I still don't believe this is a very good team. Yeah, they beat the Raiders, which not really a strong victory before their bye. And the Cowboys win was nice, but that was still against a really bad defense. And yeah, I like the Commanders at home at -4.5. Yeah, especially with Jaden Daniels back. They might get Terry McLaurin back as well, which should boost confidence in the Commanders even more. So, yep, Commanders -4.5. Cage is in agreement. And there are our picks for week 6. So, yeah, we're both looking to keep our winning records going. Like I said, Cage was dominant last week. He's moved to a 60% win percentage, so good for him. I'm just barely floating above 500, but hey, I'll take it, especially after a couple bad weeks a couple weeks ago. So, okay, very quickly, go through college football a little bit. Big takeaways from week 6. What the hell was that from Penn State? Um, that was just bad. I don't even know what else there is to say about that. Um, Most people were projecting UCLA maybe not even win a game this year after their horrid start. Uh, I believe that they had their first lead in that game, and they led the entire game. Um, yeah, James Franklin, Penn State's head coach, has been known to be a choker in big games, but he's always been known to beat up on the lesser opponents. Well, he's now losing to the little guys. So, is he on the hot seat? Potentially, unless they can quickly turn this ship around. And the other big loss was Texas. We talked about that. I mentioned it last week that this was Texas and Arch Manning's first big game against a big boy opponent since Ohio State. So this is going to be a big storyline against Florida. And yeah, they did not look very good. They came out flat, and Florida was able to pull away in the swamp. And yeah, credit to Billy Napier in Florida. In my opinion, Billy Napier against ranked teams when his job was on the line might be the greatest coach in college football history. Because man, he's been on the hot seat for several years now, but it feels like he always finds a way to pull off some win against a top 10 team that keeps him around for another few games. So yeah, but big win for Florida. They've had a tough schedule, so yeah, like I said, good for them. But Texas, man, and honestly, I think this should be a coming together moment for all college football fans, um, because I think we can all agree and celebrate that the AP pollers did the right thing and they actually dropped both Penn State and Texas out of the top 25. I believe that was what they should have done. I did not think they would do that, but they actually did. And I think most of us are pretty happy about that because neither one of them have a quality win, and they've come up empty against teams that actually have a pulse. Penn State, UCLA actually didn't have a pulse, and they still lost. So yeah, yikes. And then the other takeaway is that I think pretty obvious Miami has the best resume in the country after beating Florida State. Uh, they've swept Florida, Florida State. They beat all three of them, and they beat Notre Dame. So, heck of a start so far for Miami. Only knock on them is they have not left the state of Florida yet this year, and they won't until November. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, in the ACC, don't play too many cold weather games, but it'll be something to keep an eye on later in the year. But I think Miami, if we're just going by strength of record and resume, Miami should be number one. But I believe they did switch places with Oregon, so Miami's 2 and Oregon's 3 now. Okay, big games next week. Last week was believed to have been a kind of a minor week in college football, not too many big games, but we still had big upsets like we talked about with Penn State and Texas going down. We got some big games this week. Biggest one, in my opinion, and you probably agree with me, is the top 10 showdown in Eugene, Oregon, as the number 7 ranked Indiana Hoosiers are taking on the number 3 Oregon Ducks. I don't normally give betting advice in college football, but I am pretty confident Indiana can cover that touchdown and a half point spread against Oregon. Uh, yeah, this game's on the road, and Indiana sure did not cover in their only road game of the year against Iowa. But hey, I thought that was still a big test, and it showed a lot of their team uh, in their first game of the road game of the year going into Kinnick and taking down Iowa, a really good Iowa defense. And I think that they should be able to cover that 7.5 point spread. But yeah, huge game for the Big Ten. Ohio State's probably in the driver's seat already for spot in the Big Ten title game and a playoff spot. Yeah, Indiana and Oregon. This could go a long way in deciding who Ohio State will face. Also, Oregon's probably last big test of the year. I do believe they play USC, and USC is pretty good despite losing to Illinois. But yeah, this is by far their biggest test, but they do get the Hoosiers at home. And there's some other big games too. Red River rivalries lost a little bit of a luster because Texas is no longer ranked, but that game almost always delivers. And Texas is actually favored in this game at -1.5, despite Oklahoma being ranked 6th. I'm not sure about that. Arch Manning hasn't really proved that he can win against formidable opponents, but maybe Vegas knows better than I do. Alabama at Missouri. That's a huge SEC game. Missouri undefeated. Alabama is coming off big wins against Georgia and Vanderbilt. Kalen DeBoer and Alabama have usually looked pretty good against ranked teams, and Missouri is ranked and undefeated, so this should be the type of game that Alabama shines in. And then whenever the next unranked opponent will probably fall flat on their face again, per usual. But yeah, I like Alabama here, actually. Missouri's not had too difficult of a schedule so far. They did beat South Carolina. But yeah, I like Alabama here. And then just other games to mention, Ohio State is at Illinois. Illinois has looked pretty good after their shellacking at the hands of Indiana a couple weeks ago. But, man, Ohio State's defense is probably the best in the country and might be one of the better defenses you'll ever see in college football. So I like Ohio State to win big in this one. Michigan, USC, two historic college football programs. Michigan still just has that. Both teams just have one loss. USC is a 2.5-point favorite. Should be a good night game. Georgia, Auburn. That game has produced several highlight plays over the years. Georgia's ranked 10th now. They're 3.5-point favorites. Auburn's unranked. They've lost 2 close games against good SEC opponents. So I expect that one to be a good game as well. One other game, Florida, Texas A&M. Texas A&M is ranked 5th. They are still undefeated. They're 7.5-point favorites. But Florida just showed they can hang with, beat anybody. They beat Texas over the weekend pretty handily. They like Texas A&M, but I could see this one being pretty close as well. Yeah, there you have it. Should be, honestly, might be a better college football slate than NFL slate this coming weekend. Mentioned a couple of good games in NFL, 49ers, Buccaneers, Lions, Chiefs, Seahawks, Jags. But, yeah, man, there's a lot of good college football on Saturday. So should be an all-around great weekend if you are a football fan as we get into the heart of October, peak football season. Okay, very briefly, just want to go over MLB. As I'm recording this Tuesday, Tigers and Mariners. When I started recording this, it said the game was delayed. I don't know if the game's picked back up yet, but that is our only tied series in the divisional rounds right now at 1-1. Blue Jays up 2-0 against the Yankees. Brewers up 2-0 against the Cubs, and the Dodgers up 2-0 against the Phillies. That Dodgers-Phillies game 2, that was a good one. Phillies nearly came back in the bottom of the 9th. Freddie Freeman made an incredible save, catch at the end, get the final out for the Dodgers to preserve a 4-3 victory. But Phillies definitely had the Dodgers sweating in that game 2 finale. So, yeah, big storyline. Yankees are on the verge of having their season end. I Wouldn't be surprised if they take both home games though, and I can see them losing at Toronto. But yeah, they have not looked. They've looked out of sorts or undermanned in the Blue Jays against the Blue Jays so far in this series. So yeah, we could have new blood in the AL coming out of the AL this year. Tigers, I believe, 2012 was the last time they made the World Series, and it's Mariners. I don't know. I don't believe they have ever. And then the Blue Jays. It's been a while. So, um, yeah, baseball's getting exciting. October, best month of the year for sports. As mentioned before, football, but baseball peaks as well. Um, and I believe that does it. Kage should be back next week. Probably much tanner after a nice week in the Caribbean on his honeymoon. But yeah, that'll do it here. If you like what you heard this week or have strong disagreements, feel free to leave a comment section on our YouTube page. Feel free to like, subscribe to the channel. And yeah, it was fun hosting without Kage. Don't definitely like having a partner to communicate with back and forth. And would have liked to have heard his takes in some of the games this coming week. But yeah, if you got to hear me this week, and if you were able to bear through all 40 minutes of that, congratulations to you. So yeah, this is Logan Hubert signing off on the KNL Sports Huddle. KNL should both be here next week.